It's my privilege, and it's also inspiring to me, to be here to address this TEDx forum. And I want to say that law itself, we're here in the Richardson School of Law. This is William S. Richardson. Law itself, do we think of it as a force for change? Do we think of it as a force for inspiration? No, not usually. But I want to speak about how it is, that how the life that we come to live, how the context in which Hawaii exists, is in part due to transformative progressive law. And I want to point to this gentleman, William Shaw Richardson, Chief Justice of the Hawaii Supreme Court from 1966 to 1982, my mentor, someone I was fortunate and lucky enough to work with. He changed the law. He changed the law in a way that was dramatic, and it makes it possible for us to live in the Hawaii that we know today. I want to start with something, the state motto. The life of the land is preserved in righteousness. That's a profound and inspiring motto. Can we live up to it? This man, to him, his work was in law. The life of the law was preserved in righteousness. And what do we mean by righteousness? It is a representative of the people. It is a golden age. It is a golden age in which the values, the law is going to be reflective of the needs and wants of the people itself. And he was able to change law. He came from a period of time when he was born and raised in which law was not made by the people. This is the territorial period, the colonial period, after the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii, in which Hawaii was governed from afar, in which Hawaii was not in control of its own destiny, and he was able through statehood to change that. And how did he change that? Well, like ourselves, we are destined. He was destined. He was the right man at the right time with the right instrument. He was able to write the right laws. What he did is profound and lasting. He would change the way we thought about water. Water used to be, during the Dark Ages, during the territorial period, water used to be owned by the sugar companies, owned by private interests. You had to buy water. Water was not available to the public. He changed all that. In decisions that he wrote, he declared water to be a public trust. He expanded the beaches. He made it more accessible for the average person to have access to ocean recreation. He was able to, in a decision that's profound, say in effect that land added to the Hawaiian Islands by volcanic action did not belong to the adjoining landowner, but was, indeed, a public trust. He was the right man at the right time. In what way? Well, he was from humble beginnings. He was not one born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He grew up in Kalihi. He moved to Kaimuki. He didn't go to elite schools. He went to public schools such as Roosevelt. He graduated from the University of Hawaii and eventually from the University of Cincinnati School of Law. He served in the military. He was a lieutenant in World War II, leading the Philippine Scouts, and he always understood his background. His background was deeply affected by his Hawaiian ancestry. His great-grandfather, Colonel John Richardson, represented the Queen, and as she tried to fight for and end the United States occupation of Hawaii, the annexation of Hawaii. His own father participated in the counter-revolution by which Hawaii's Hawaiians sought to overturn the effects of the overthrow. He rose from these humble roots as an island boy to become Chief Justice. He was in politics. He was Lieutenant Governor in 1962, and in 1966 he was appointed to be the Chief Justice of the Hawaii Supreme Court, the court that is the highest court in the state of Hawaii, a court that makes laws that are final on matters of state property law. And he had a quest, a vision, a goal in life to take charge of that property law and redirect it in a way that was appropriate for the Hawaiian Islands. He was native Hawaiian, but he was also by affiliation, by political background, by friendship, an Asian American. What does this mean? He was able to, and this is critical, address the needs of the two most important political constituencies in the 1960s at a time of statehood. This was the force of Hawaiian sovereignty, a Hawaiian sense of loss, the Hawaiian sense of loss of land, loss of culture, loss of sovereignty, the trauma of the overthrow. These were the things that were on the minds of Hawaiians. They wanted self-determination. They wanted to return to some degree of dignity. He also was by affiliation, but also because he was Chinese and Asian American. He understood, therefore, the needs, the wants, the aspirations of this group, this very large group, 140,000 Asian immigrants who had come to Hawaii. They're Issei and Nisei, first in generation, had come to work the sugar plantations. They were the subject of inequality. They were the subject of oppression on the plantations. If they unionized, they would lose their company housing. They were under the control and the domination, literally the oppression, of the Big Five, the large 5 corporations that dominated the mercantile life of Hawaii. They were not powerful. They were not organized. The Democratic Party was weak. Chief Justice Richardson was able to bridge these two communities. He was able to pull them together into a coalition and make them a powerful force for change, a change that we will see of statehood, which is a dramatic moment, and we have to ask ourselves, what's our dramatic moment? He was able to take the concerns of Native Hawaiians, their sense of loss, their sense of seeking dignity and self-determination, and explain it to the Asian Americans. He was able to take the Asian American sense of wanting equality, the New Deal to come to Hawaii, a sense of importance, a sense of belonging, a desire to be part of the middle class. He was able to take that and explain it to Hawaiians. These were two divergent communities. You have to understand. One, Asian Americans desiring essentially assimilation into the United States, a closer relationship with the United States. Hawaiians already burned by their association with the United States. One group, Americans by conquest, Native Hawaiians. Another group, Americans by consent, coming from foreign countries. He had to bring these together to form the coalition that would make the present-day Hawaii. He was, therefore, a man who was there at the right time. And what was that time? That time was a time of transformation. The Dark Ages I mentioned, the territorial colonial period, that was over. Statehood, consented by Washington, D.C., brought upon by the government of the United States, by the will of the people, meant change. What kind of change? During the territorial period, the governor of Hawaii was not elected by the people. He was appointed by the President of the United States. The President of the United States also appointed the justices of the Hawaii Supreme Court. And what did that mean? It meant for most of us and many of us who lived in Hawaii, our parents couldn't vote for the President of the United States, let alone the governor of the United States. We had no say in who was going to be our leaders. We had no say in the kinds of justices who would be on the Hawaii Supreme Court. We therefore had no influence in the kind of law and justice and decisions that would be rendered. These were people from Massachusetts, from Kentucky, from Tennessee. They imposed Western concepts of ownership, of exclusivity upon island law. The change was dramatic. It was a huge change. Statehood brought the election of a governor. And what did that mean? The governor would appoint the Supreme Court. The governor would be elected by the 140,000 formerly dispossessed, oppressed people, the two groups, Hawaiians and Asian Americans. The governor would appoint people to the court, such as William S. Richardson, who would reflect the values, the needs, the aspirations of these formerly outcast people. And would you expect the laws to remain the same? The jurisprudence of the Dark Ages was replaced by the jurisprudence of a golden age in which law could be used as a revolutionary, inspiring, innovative force. Native Hawaiians, how would they do in the past 50 years? How would Asian Americans do? Asian Americans would largely succeed. They would have their goals of equal opportunity, of the New Deal, of the opportunity to become members of the middle class met. They largely succeeded and were assimilated. The question today, the question that I'm going to address, is what about Native Hawaiians? Their fight for some kind of reconciliation, some form of reparations or restitution, some redress has not been met. And that is a powerful force. It's a force that some people fear, but I'm going to describe it as a force that we can address as a positive force. The Chief Justice was able, during this period, based on the coalition that he addressed, to make the right law. He basically, as I stated before, expanded the beaches, declared the waters to be a public trust. He encouraged and protected cultural and traditional gathering rights in the mountains. He declared that lands added to the state of Hawaii by volcanic action would belong to the people. That was 30 or 40 years ago. and I represented him as an attorney. He was called crazy. He was visionary, but visionaries are often called crazy. He was called communist. He was called communist because he took property away from the large landowners, the powerful interests, and gave it to the people. He had to overcome this, and in 30 years, what was it that led him to succeed? Today, his decisions are the basis, the foundation of the law that we live by today. He succeeded largely because of 3 reasons. He addressed the needs of both of the constituencies that he bridged. He recognized Hawaiian sovereignty by implementing into the law today the values and principles of the kings and queens of Hawaii. They believed that water was communal. They believed that the beaches should belong to all. They believed in cultural and traditional gathering rights. And so he was able to restore a sense of dignity, not a complete restoration of sovereignty, but a sense of importance in Hawaiians that gave them spirit, gave them hope. His jurisprudence, that is, the laws that he made, was non-discriminatory and addressed the needs of Asian Americans. When he expanded the beaches, he didn't expand it just for Native Hawaiians. He expanded for everyone in the state of Hawaii. When he declared water was going to be a public trust, he didn't say it was only based for Native Hawaiians. He said it would be applicable to everyone. And so in many ways, he realized the aspirations, the goals, the needs, the philosophies of these 2 important groups. But if you look at the bottom, I think the most important reason why his jurisprudence was successful was that it was island-based. He realized that Hawaii was different from England, different from Massachusetts, where Western law was imported. Hawaii is an island. It's the only island state in the Union. And how are islands different? Islands are like this little circle that I have to stand in. You look at the circle, you got to stay in the circle. You can't travel across the stage. Islands, well, what are islands like? Social relationships on islands are going to be different. You get divorced, you still have to see your spouse. I mean, there you are, you're going around. You're going to bump into him or her. Social relationships in the law have to realize this. What about property law? Property law on islands is vastly different from property law based in England or in Massachusetts. England, we know, is the basis of Blackacre. What's Blackacre? Blackacre is the paradigm that law students in their first year are taught as the model for the derivation of all property concepts. Blackacre is what the typical homeowner in England lives in. And what is this? It's 20 acres of land, rolling fields, foxes running through the fields, streams, an 18-mansion house with rooms, carriage houses. And from this comes all the principles of property that we apply today. Are those applicable in Hawaii today? What's Blackacre in Hawaii today? Blackacre is an 800-square-foot box in the sky that you don't own, a condominium. A 1-bedroom, not an 18-room mansion, a 1-bedroom, 1.5-bath apartment. Do you have foxes running through these apartments? No, you have geckos. You have geckos, and you don't go on fox hunts, you go on gecko hunts. You don't have rolling hills. The hills, the waters, the places for recreation are far away. And so to the Chief Justice, it was very important to make these resources, mountains, beaches, available for the people of Hawaii. Islands are like spaceships going through the universe. They have to carry with them all of their goods and needs. Are the laws of property and allocation going to be the same on a spaceship as in England or in the continent of the United States? No, if money and markets drive everything, only the rich will have the goods. This is a picture of Israel Kamakawiwa Ole. His back is to you, but he's not insulting you. He's employing a principle that the Chief Justice used. On an island, you look back as you walk, and you walk into the future backwards. That's a Hawaiian view of the future. You look to the past to understand how you are to move into the future. So the question is, what's our moment? What's our right man, right time, right place? And I would say it is globalization. Globalization is the dominant force in the world today. We're interconnected in a way that we have never been before. There's a breaching of walls, a breaching of boundaries, a breaching of borders. The old ideas of sovereignty are no longer applicable. And what I'm saying is we should look backwards as well. We should look backwards at a time in which sovereignty might have been appropriate. And I'm speaking about the singular idea of sovereignty, that we have to be a state. That is, I'm proposing that we look at Hawaiians as a force by which we can dramatically change our concept of sovereignty and develop a composite sovereignty, a sovereignty in which Hawaii, imagine Hawaii is this circle. Part of Hawaii would be the state of Hawaii. Part of Hawaii could be the nation, the kingdom of Hawaii. Part of Hawaii could be an international zone. Why do we restrict ourselves to thinking only in either or categories? That it has to be a state or return to the monarchy or a territory. Well, we don't want that. Why not reinvent the idea of sovereignty so that Hawaii could be a composite of different forms? You could have an international zone where there'd be collaboration, where US law would not apply. It would be like an international zone. We could be the Geneva of the Pacific. In the Hawaiian sovereign nation, you could have a continuation of the actions and the philosophy of the Chief Justice, where Hawaiian law, Hawaiian principles would be applicable. You could have the state of Hawaii, and people would be freely able to associate and travel between these zones. You would be able to maximize and optimize your ability to cooperate and to work with other people in the world. Here's a picture of Hong Kong. China, the dominant, powerful economic force that it is, has multiple sovereignties. Hong Kong is different from mainland China. They've been able to exploit the idea of multiple sovereignties to take advantage of, in the West, Western laws of trade, commerce, securities regulation that are more liberal than in China. I say we do the same thing. I say we look at least examine, reconstruct, and think out of the box. I say that the life of the land and the life of the law is perpetuated in righteousness, and it's time to rethink what we mean by Hawaii. Thank you.